Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so I want you to imagine this for just a second. You've finally decided that today is the day. Today is the day you're actually going to take control of your money. So you sit down, you take a deep breath, you open your banking app on your phone, and suddenly you're forced to look at it all at once. The numbers are just staring right back at you, and the reality of the whole situation hits you like a ton of bricks.
And there it is, a credit card balance of $3,200. You kind of feel your chest tighten just a little bit. And it's not because you didn't know you spent the money, but because right now, seeing it right there on the screen, it's undeniably real. Then you scroll down, and the dread just builds. A $12,000 car loan. Ugh. Suddenly, the weight of that monthly payment feels a heck of a lot heavier. And hanging over all of it, an $18,000 student loan. When you see all these numbers stacked up together, panic sets in. It's completely overwhelming. So what do? You do what most people do when they feel trapped. You go straight to YouTube. You frantically type in how to get out of debt fast, desperately looking for a quick fix, a life raft. And almost instantly, you're hit with this massive tidal wave of financial advice. Okay, let's dive into this because this is where the trouble really starts. On one side, you've got experts screaming, pay off the smallest debt first. You have to build momentum. But then, on the other side, a completely different group of experts is yelling, no, absolutely not. Pay off the highest interest first. You have to save money. Two totally different methods. Two completely opposing strategies. And both are fiercely claiming to be the absolute best way to become debt-free. So suddenly, you find yourself stuck all over again. Only this time, you aren't just stuck in debt, you're stuck in complete confusion. Which brings us to section 1, the real debt problem and why we fail. Let's just be brutally honest for a second. People don't fail because they're bad at math. They fail because the process of getting out of debt just feels incredibly painfully slow. You're not failing because of money, you're failing because of motivation. When progress feels invisible, people just quit. So the real question we need to be asking isn't which method saves the most money mathematically. No, the only question that actually matters is which method keeps you going long enough to actually win. Let's move to section 2. The crossroads, Snowball versus Avalanche. We're going to break these two competing strategies down in the absolute simplest way possible, completely skipping all the confusing financial jargon. First up, the debt snowball. The rules here are incredibly simple. You list your debts from smallest balance to largest balance, and you completely ignore the interest rates. Then, you focus every single extra dollar you have on that smallest debt. Remember that $3,200 credit card balance we talked about earlier? You attack that first. You kill it fast. And when you do, something powerful happens in your brain. You feel progress. You feel momentum. You get this massive emotional win that acts exactly like a snowball rolling downhill, gathering speed and size as you move on to the next debt. Now contrast this with the avalanche method. Here, you list your debts by interest rate, from highest to lowest. You focus all your energy on the debt that's costing you the most money in interest. Mathematically speaking, this is the smartest move. It definitely saves you the most money over the lifespan of your debt. But here is the massive catch. Often that highest interest debt is also your biggest balance. So month after month, you're throwing extra money at it, and the balance barely seems to move. It feels exactly like running on a treadmill. You're sweating, you're working hard, but you just don't feel like you're actually getting anywhere. And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world difference between two people. Let's call them Jake and Sarah. Both have the exact same debt and income. Jake chooses the avalanche. He's logical, he focuses strictly on the math. But because he doesn't see that balance moving quickly, his motivation drops, he slips up, and eventually he just quits. He's right back where he started. Sarah, on the other hand, chooses the snowball. She focuses on the emotion of small wins. She pays off her smallest debt quickly, and suddenly she feels a sense of control she literally hasn't felt in years. That emotional win builds her confidence, and she uses that energy to confidently tackle the rest of the whole shebang. Sarah wins, not because her math was better, but because her method perfectly matched human behavior. Which leads us nicely into section 3, the psychology of winning. Because the massive truth that almost all traditional financial advice completely ignores is that humans are not spreadsheets. We're emotional, impatient, reward-driven creatures. It really all comes down to the progress effect. Our brains are hardwired for quick wins. When we see visible progress, we keep going. When we don't, we stop. It's the exact same reason people quit the gym in February. They work out for 3 weeks, they don't look like a fitness model in the mirror, so they quit.
Not because the gym doesn't work, but because the visible results just felt way too slow. The Avalanche method is kind of like going to the gym for months without seeing a change. The Snowball method? That's like stepping on the scale and seeing you lost 3 pounds in your very first week. Which one is going to make you show up again tomorrow? Progress keeps you going. Perfection makes you quit. I want you to let this sink in. A perfect plan you quit is worse than a simple plan you follow. This is the absolute core insight of this entire explainer. Seriously. Yes, the Avalanche method saves more money mathematically, but if you abandon it halfway through, it's entirely useless. So the crucial point here is this. Getting out of debt is really about optimizing behavior, not money. Your biggest enemy on this journey isn't the interest rate the bank is charging you. Your biggest enemy is inconsistency. It's starting and stopping, it's losing momentum, and giving up way too early. Debt freedom is, fundamentally, a behavior game. This brings us to Section 4, the hybrid strategy. Now, what if we could actually bridge the gap between Sarah's emotional wins and Jake's flawless logic? Well, here's what actually works best for the vast majority of people out there. Step 1, start with the snowball method. Attack that smallest debt and get that quick win. This is absolutely vital because it actually changes your identity from someone who's drowning in debt to someone who actively pays off debt. You build consistent momentum. Then, once you've established that habit, once you're consistently making extra payments and you actually feel in control, you switch over to the Avalanche method. Now, you take the discipline you built from the snowball and you apply it to the mathematical efficiency of the avalanche. You start with emotion and you finish with logic. It's the best of both worlds. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, your path to freedom. It's time to move out of the overwhelming confusion and actually start executing today. Now, what's really interesting about this is how simple the steps actually are. Yes, you need to list out all your debts. Yes, you need to be completely honest with yourself about whether you need the motivation of the snowball or the optimization of the avalanche right now. And yes, automate your payments so you don't even have to think about it. But that final step on the list, tracking your progress visually, that changes absolutely everything. Color in a chart on your fridge. Move marbles from one jar to another. I'm serious. Humans absolutely need to see the progress to keep the fire burning. Because at the end of the day, consistency beats optimization. Every single time. The smartest people in personal finance aren't necessarily the ones with the most complex, mathematically perfect spreadsheets. They're simply the ones who refuse to stop. The method doesn't matter nearly as much as your ability to just stick with it. Debt isn't just about money. It's about control over your time, your choices, and your future. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this one final provocative thought. Stop asking yourself which method is technically better. Instead, take a hard look at your own life, your own habits, and ask yourself this. Which method will you actually follow until you're finally free? Stop waiting for the perfect plan and start executing a simple one today.